back to Start Here, the very special mini-series within Sugar Mama's Fireplay, where I proudly answer your real-life money questions with practical, empowering advice to help you simply get started. Today's question comes from Mandy, who wrote, "Hi Canna, my question is about financial burnout. I've been saving for years, being frugal, saying no, cutting back. Initially, it was worth it as I could see my savings, which is for a home deposit, grow. But with everything so expensive, not only am I not able to save, but I'm now going backwards because I have to use my savings. And this is just for the essentials. I am feeling so deflated and defeated, and I'm not sure it's actually worth trying anymore. Can you please help me? I feel I need a start here pep talk. Cheers, Mandy." All right, first of all, thank you, Mandy, for writing with such honesty. I know that so many listeners right now will relate deeply to this. The exhaustion, the frustration, the feeling that despite you are doing and trying everything and trying to do everything perfectly and right, the system's working against you. And you are not alone. I can personally relate to this as well, particularly right now. And it really does feel like one step forward and then 1.5 back. So today, I want to give you both a pep talk, but also 5 practical steps to help you reignite that financial fire within you, because I believe it's still there. So let's get cracking. All right, Mandy and everyone else that's listening that's feeling that they can relate to this sense of burnout right now. And that is, we need to acknowledge the burnout. Financial burnout is real. When you have been hustling, saving, and cutting back, saying no for so long, for years, and then you've got rising costs, eating away at everything, at all of your hard work, it feels like you are running on a treadmill that is set on sprint mode without ever actually getting anywhere or getting ahead. So we need to take a moment to stop and acknowledge this. The first step for you, Mandy, and everybody listening right now is to recognize that this is not a personal or financial failure whatsoever. It is the environment that we're all living in right now. Inflation, rent, mortgage rates, groceries, fuel, electricity. They have all risen so much. The fact that you have saved money in the first place shows enormous discipline and resilience. Please take a note of that. Now, that skill to save hasn't actually gone away. What has actually happened is your energy is starting to run out, or it's already run out. And guess what? That's okay. You are human at the end of the day. And part of this solution is to stop blaming yourself and find a way to start nurturing your financial well-being again. Which brings me now to step 2. And that is, we need to redefine what progress looks like under today's terms. You see, when you have a goal, an exciting goal that you're working on, and it feels like it's quite far away, in your instance, saving for a deposit in today's housing market, it can feel at times pointless and unobtainable, particularly in moments where we're running out of energy. We lose that vital connection to that goal that we are working on and we're supposed to be passionate about. But the thing is, and we need to remember this, progress doesn't mean necessarily a growing bank balance or a growing investment portfolio or a big fat superannuation account. Progress can look like lots of other things that are as equally as important, such as staying out of debt or, covering your living expenses without having to reach for a credit card, or reviewing your budget on a regular basis and your transactions to help make sure that you're sticking to your budget. Or progress is even just building really small habits that protect your financial well-being and help reduce that financial stress. That is still progress. It's not just the numbers that dictate your progress in a bank balance or a share portfolio. So sometimes we need to remember that we have to zoom out and take a look back at the big picture. Actually, here's a better way of sort of looking at it. This isn't a sprint that you're working on, it's a marathon. And just like, any marathon, there is so much important pre-training. Any personal trainer or anyone who runs a marathon will tell you how vital the pre-training is. You spend months building up the fitness, showing up to the gym, going on those, long walks and those jogs, working on your flexibility, building up your endurance you're going to need long before that big day arrives where you have to do that marathon. Now, right now, even if your savings aren't actually growing, or they might even be plateauing and going backwards, as you say, you've got to recognize that you are in this pre-training mode phase. And the more time you spend planning and preparing, the smoother and the more enjoyable this marathon day will be when it comes. And it will come. I believe in you. See that right now, you're learning how to manage your money under pressure. You're learning how to adapt when conditions change and get hard. And you're actually learning how to build resilience. These are the skills and the strengths you're building right now that are actually going to serve you well into the future and actually help magnify your financial journey so much more. And when that opportunity does come to finally buy your dream home, and whether it be like a change in the market or, maybe more income or a chance to buy, you are going to be so ready. You're going to be so organized. You're going to be so educated and informed. You'll have so much endurance under your belt, and you're going to cross that finish line without any financial injury or burnout. So please don't dismiss this particular stage that you're in right now. Deep down, it's a blessing in disguise. It's laying down the foundation for the moment that you finally get to run your financial marathon. And that is sign that contract when you buy this dream home of yours. Now, step 3. We've got to remember to bring back some joy and balance into our lives. All work and no play makes someone a boring person. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a pep talk. So brace yourself. If all you ever do is cut back, say no, and continuously make sacrifice after sacrifice, burnout is inevitable. We need to learn how to reframe this. I want you to give yourself permission to include small joys in your budget, whether it is a coffee with a friend, a family outing, or a little financially friendly treat, a massage, a pedicure, even a new pair of shoes if you like. Don't think of these as failures or self-destruction. They're actually fuel. They are investments for your further financial success focus. They help keep you motivated long enough until you reach your big goal. Recently, someone said something to me and it really resonated with me, and they said, frugality is a tool, not a lifestyle sentence. Now, I really love this way of thinking because it's a reminder that you can actually pick up that tool of being frugal when you need it. And you can use it strategically to help you achieve something that's really important to you. But you've also got to know when to put that frugal tool down and maybe look at even switching tools so that you don't ever rob yourself of joy, pleasure, and healthy balance in life. Remember, the goal isn't just about buying a home and owning a home, but it's also to enjoy your life, to live it to its maximum, and to be proud, to fill it with love and happiness and experiences along the way. That's true wealth. Now, step 4. What can we actually do? What are the practical sides here to also help us, snap out of this? And that is, we need to perhaps look at adjusting the strategy, but not the dream or the goal. So let's get really practical, you and I. If saving for a deposit in Sydney or whichever major area you're living in right now, if this is feeling impossible, maybe it's time to press pause and make a few tweaks and changes and adjustments. Ask yourself a few questions. Take a moment to reflect. Could you maybe extend your timeline instead of actually abandoning this goal? If you had your heart set on achieving it by the end of the year, perhaps you maybe needed to look at changing that deadline to maybe July next year perhaps, or whatever, makes you feel a bit more empowered. Or perhaps you need to explore alternative paths, like maybe buying in a different area, or maybe buying a smaller stepping stone to get into the property market. Or maybe not buying a place that you want to live in necessarily straight away, but buying it as an investment property first and then look to move in further down the track. Having that rental income when you are looking for a mortgage application, that might actually help mean that you need a smaller deposit and actually get your loan approved faster and mean that you can start shopping sooner. Explore what are the other options here to help you achieve this goal. Could you perhaps change your living arrangements to save more? I've shared this before, I think, on how do they afford that, but a lot of my friends actually moved back in at home with their parents. And I'm not talking like my single friends, I'm talking my friends and their husbands and even their kids in some cases. They moved back in with their parents to help save. And, some of them even looked at moving overseas to take on, 9 months contracts or 12-month contracts overseas because it allowed them to be able to save more money and be on a different tax rate. And it helped. Every single one of my friends that made this sacrifice and did this and changed their living expenses in order to save more money sooner, it actually helped every single one of them, and some of them massively so. And I understand that this is not obviously an option for everyone. It is, a way, I guess, of right now of looking at things differently, questioning what you could do, what you hadn't thought of before that actually might work. That there may be a stroke of genius in asking yourself a ridiculous question and going through this particular process. But the ultimate question is what can you change in your life right now to help, I guess, create some extra money in your life or some more breathing room so you can get back on track with your savings again. And sometimes the most empowering thing you can do is actually just accept that the original path that you picked and designed for yourself is just temporarily blocked right now. And the dream itself is definitely still important and valid, but we just need to look at maybe a detour to help you get started and keep moving forward. Which then brings me on to my next step, step 5. And that is leaning on your community and support. And I include myself as part of your community and your support. One of the best antidotes for financial burnout is connection. Social media so often gets criticized for fueling this comparison and this encouraging this overspending. But it's also an incredible debt-free and financial independence community online, which I am a little bit addicted to. Personally, I find it so inspiring to look at these accounts. I'm going to go link a few examples in the podcast notes for you, but it is definitely one of my most helpful go-tos when I am feeling financially flat or even unmotivated. And yes, I'm someone who would define myself as someone who's very motivated in all the other aspects of my life, not just financially, but there are moments where, yes, I hit a wall and I can't be bothered anymore. And this is why I love these particular groups on TikTok, on Instagram, that give me the kick up the arse, even YouTube actually, to get back on track again and to snap out of this mood. These communities, and as I said, I'll share them in the podcast notes for you, but these people that I follow, they share their struggles, their setbacks, and they share their wins as well in real time. And they remind me that we're not alone. And I think they'll do the same for you. And they act as like a cheerleader, and they also help keep you accountable. And sometimes it's that little boost of encouragement in a really real way that is exactly what gets you through the day and gets you through one week after the other, onwards and upwards. So if you are feeling isolated right now on this financial journey, then find those safe, supportive spaces where money conversations are honest, they're real, but they're also really kind, because I feel like that's what you need right now. Some self-love, some self-respect, and just a sense of nurturing that financial well-being again. Now, this then leads me to my next step, and I'm apologies. I think I said at the beginning of this podcast that I'd only be giving you 5 steps. I've actually got 6 steps, and that is to reignite your motivation, but doing this so with micro goals. Motivation comes from seeing small little wins along the way. Progress fuels success. And the way that we see that progress is by acknowledging and seeing all those little bits of progress. Instead of seeing that massive goal, like save $150,000 for a deposit, even I would be like, yeah, I'm not even going to bother trying. But if I said to myself, I'm going to save $1,500, which represents 1% of that goal, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. I'll give that a go. Why not? I've got nothing to lose. It's more empowering. It's encouraging. It actually kind of feels like an inclusive goal. So looking at your micro goals, what micro goals can we help create for you right now and for everyone else listening that's working on their goals? How can you break it down? I hate to bang on about this, but this is the $1,000 project principle. I didn't set out to build a $350,000 share portfolio. I just set out to invest $1,000. And then I just repeated that over and over and over again. And obviously compounding interest and a bit of gearing along the way has helped create this. It actually hasn't been that hard because I've just focused on what I can do in the moment. So what little micro goals, and I don't say little to undermine or patronize, but what, goals can you feel that you can do right now in this moment that are approachable, inclusive, and achievable? Have a think about this. Perhaps it's a goal to save $500 by the end of the month, or even $50 at the end of the month. I don't care how big or how small it is. Or what new side hustle can you find? Can you declutter some things in your home and try and set a goal to save, or make $1,000 from decluttering your home and things that you don't use anymore, don't want anymore, you've outgrown, or you have duplicates of? Or perhaps you have a goal which you make like a little challenge that you don't allow yourself to touch your deposit money for 30 days straight. Or perhaps you need to look at, applying for some additional jobs. Is there some weekend work? Perhaps you have a skill that you can look at monetizing. Maybe you're really good with a camera. Maybe you're really good at building websites. Perhaps you can do some copywriting. Like, what other little skills do you have that you can create a fun challenge for yourself where you just need to come up with an extra $1,000, $500, $100 that you can put towards your goals. Every little tiny win really does add momentum and motivation. And that momentum keeps that fire burning even when the bigger picture feels so heavy and exhausting and completely intimidating. Remember, no journey is ever linear, whether it be financial, whether it be fitness, whether it be about your own personal growth and development. It's every small step that you show up and put your sneakers on to take and move forward is what counts. Now, Mandy, as I wrap up today's episode, I want to just know that I am here for you, and I'm here for everybody else who can relate to this and is feeling this. You have not failed. Nobody has failed. We are all tired, and for a very good reason, because we've been having a go. If we hadn't been trying or even bothered to have a crack, we wouldn't be feeling this way. We'd be burying our head in the sand. But no, we're all different because we are not settling. We're not being complacent. We're trying to improve our financial well-being, and this will pay off. It'll pay off for all of us. Now, the thing is, though, the fact that you are asking for help, you have taken the time to pick up your phone, to write this long message to me, it tells me something really big, really important that I want you to know and understand and feel proud about yourself. It tells me, and I should say that also for everyone who's listening to this episode, because it tells me that you and everyone listening is not giving up. And that is to be commended. You're listening to this podcast. You're asking for help. You are looking for solutions. That is brilliant. That is exciting. So everybody, Mandy and everyone listening right now, give yourself grace. Redefine what progress looks for you right now. Allow some space to breathe and to have some moments for joy and pleasure. Adjust your strategy if you need to. But promise me this, don't give up. Hold on to that goal. Believe in yourself. Go for that dream. Surround yourself with supportive voices and celebrate every single little win, $10, $100, $1,000, that keeps you moving forward. Because one day, when you look back, you're going to realize it wasn't actually the size of your savings account that actually defined you. It was something way bigger, way more important. It was your persistence, your resilience, and your refusal to quit. And that is something that money can never buy. Sorry, I get a little bit passionate. Now, if this episode has given you a boost, Mandy, and has given all the listeners a kick of inspiration, motivation, and empowerment, can you please do me a huge favor, because it would mean so much to me? Can you please go and send it and share it on your socials with anyone else who might be struggling right now with financial burnout? And everyone else listening, if you'd like me to answer any of your money questions in the next episode of Start Here, please make sure that you send me a DM on Instagram at SugarMamaTV or on my own personal fun lifestyle account, Canna Campbell Official. Now, in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. If you could take a moment to leave me a rating and review, as always, I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, that is, next Monday morning, I'll connect with you on Sugar Mama's Fireplay. Ciao for now.